The founder of the Conservative think tank Bright Blue has quit his position and says the Tories are failing his generation. Ryan Shorthouse says millennials who entered the labour market in the 12 years since the Conservatives came into power have been hit by, in quotes, punishing housing and childcare costs, as well as stagnant wages. Is it more millennial moaning, or does he have a point? I imagine you sympathise with this. Are you a millennial still?
Oh, good grief. No.
Or still? Have you ever been a millennial?
No, never. Gen X. Top end of Gen X as well.
Oh, you look young.
I think the point he makes is absolutely right. There is a generational betrayal happening. So for the last 50, 60 years, there's been an expectation as you sort of go through school that you're going to go to work and you'll have a reasonable crack at owning your own home. That, unless you've got rich parents, is a dream that is evaporating for hundreds of thousands, millions of people, because it's just out of reach. And the sky-high rents that people have to pay, I'm lucky I don't have to do that. I have my own home. But the sky-high rents, where so much of a wage goes in rent, But
you know what? I don't own my own home yet. I'm 30 years old, and something in me, I don't know what it is, but I don't feel the need to complain about it as if it's someone else's fault necessarily. But I do take your point. Housing costs and also childcare costs are out of control. That is true.
You know, if you want to live in the centre of London, most people are not going to be able to buy anywhere.
So they should just up sticks and move?
No, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is, I didn't have a mortgage or get somewhere, and I'm in the last century, never mind millennium. I'm the last millennium, I think. And I was well in my 30s, and I had a mortgage and I paid 8%, about 8% in interest rates. And I don't agree with Ryan, really. You know, we've put... When I was at school, very few people went to university. The working class was a much bigger part of society. And then we had grammar schools and various things, and some of us then obviously didn't do jobs that our parents did, mine were both sort of blue-collar. They left school at 14. So the opportunities that children have had over these last decades, and the numbers going to university, which was, as you quite rightly say, with Tony Blair, they kicked it off, let's go and get more people into university. And quite rightly, their expectations are going to be that they're going to be doing jobs where they're going to be able to earn more, and they're not going to be looking at the jobs, the sort of blue-collar type jobs, which have to be done. Who's going to work in the food processing plant, for example?
Is there a difference in expectations? Because when I speak to my parents, they didn't go out for dinner, they didn't go on holidays, they didn't, you know, buy themselves lots of new things. Do you think that although housing costs are out of control, young people have different priorities? They will prioritise going travelling, for example, or for going out to bars or restaurants, more so than previous generations would have done?
The fundamental difference is the gap between what you're bringing home in your annual salary and what it costs to buy a house. 50 years ago, you could buy a house, you know, wherever in London or wherever, £8,000, £9,000, £10,000. Whatever you were earning, it was within reach. And if you made little sacrifices, you don't go on holiday, you can get, that thing comes within reach. If the gap is hundreds of thousands of pounds, you can stop eating avocado, you can stop watching Netflix, you can make all the savings you want. You're never going to be in the ballpark of getting
there
that.
Are so many...
that lift off of that of prices in housing.
It's so complicated though as well, because younger people are taking much more time before they settle down with a partner, if they do at all. So, you know, 2 salaries are better than 1. And often there's only 1 because people aren't coupling up as quickly. But I do think the Conservatives have sort of abandoned any emphasis on the family, on trying to help, you know, young couples get onto the housing ladder. I think that he does have a point.
Well, I don't think that's the Conservatives particularly. I think if you look at the way times have moved on, when I was 50 years ago, I couldn't have bought a flat. I couldn't have bought a place in London. I was here in London. I didn't earn enough, and I worked for a big company. I couldn't have got a mortgage, and that would have been even in outer London. So, you know, I know what you're saying, but then we could look and we could say, OK, well, if people get married, why don't we pay them a married person's allowance? And then, of course, that was always ruled out because times have moved on and a lot of people cohabit and they don't get married anymore.
And
then that was seen as being discriminatory because somebody was not married, that they, you know...
It's an absolute minefield.
It was like a minefield, frankly.
The issue here isn't about a tax intervention, it's about reforming
very
housing.
quickly, and then I'll give you the last word.
I've lived on four different countries. The emphasis on home ownership is bigger in the UK than it's anywhere else because more people, certainly on the continent, tend to rent.
Yes.
And it's not, and they rent for life and they don't find an issue with it. We've always done, you know, bricks and mortar.